Hey, visionaries. This is Shalita, the nonprofit Easter O'Neill. And my mission is to help business owners and community organizers to launch and revitalize nonprofits that will rebuild their communities. Welcome back for another hashtag nonprofit no filter live discussion. Y'all know I have been away for 2 weeks on my self-care sabbatical. Woosah, today's my first day back and I am rejuvenated and ready to go. And I got some caffeine in me, so bear with me. But I'm so excited about our conversation today. We're going to be talking about community building, bricks and mortar, and relationships. Now, y'all know, we always talk about wanting to get a building. I've heard it so many times, nonprofit professionals, visionaries will say, I'm going to, maybe they're fresh out the gate, 1 or 2 years. And they're like, I want to get this because I was there. We'll get to that in a minute. But, we're like, okay, I want to get a building. I saw this vacant housing or this vacant building, and I'm going to go to the county or the city or the state who owns it. And I'm going to ask them to donate it to me for $1 and all of that. And that's wonderful. That does happen. But a lot of times when we're first starting out, we're like, okay, well, it sounds good, but we don't actually know the steps to take in order to do something like that. And I know, it's not even just about, okay, well, I'm going to go down to the zoning office and I'm going to go here and I'm going to go there. It's also about relationships. The types of relationships that you are building, the people that you know in the community, because once you actually get that piece of land or that property, you're also going to need to be able to keep it. You got to renovate it, then you got to maintain it. And you have to keep those people who were part of your community or your network to help you to get that property or get that land. You got to keep them engaged in so many different ways. So today, our special guest, and she's going to be joining us. She told me, it's Miss Sandy Washington. She is the co-founder of Lifestyles of Maryland Foundation, and she's one of my mentors. She's going to be joining us in a second. She's actually coming off of a meeting. She's meeting with the commissioner, and she told me, we out here in Maryland, Prince George's County, Maryland, y'all. So she told me that she told them that, listen, I have a meeting that I have to go to right after this. So she's going to introduce the commissioner or somebody high up, right? And then she's gonna jump on here with us and to share her knowledge. So I'm excited about that. But I want to tell you a little bit about Miss Sandy, and I call her Miss Sandy out of respect too, because like I said, she's been a mentor to me for, I want to say, the past 10 years. And I had started my first organization that I told you guys about that I started in Baltimore. I had expanded and I needed space. I was in Baltimore City and I also needed space in Prince George's County because that's where I live, not too far from Baltimore, but I wanted to be able to have a location to serve the community here. And so one of my, another mentor, y'all know this whole thing is about, when you're talking about building nonprofits and community building, you have to have mentors. You have to have people who know a lot more than you about what's going on in the community to help steer you in the right direction. So I went to one of my mentors and who introduced me. He said, you know what, you should reach out to Miss Sandy Washington. And I did that, and check it, y'all. She had renovated it used to be a strip mall out here in Prince George's County. She had renovated it and turned it into a nonprofit incubator. And so it was me and 8 other nonprofit organizations that shared space. She had we had our space there, conference room and everything, but she also had a computer lab next door to it, a food pantry. She was working on developing a daycare so that everybody could, we could bring our kids or even people from the community. There could be a daycare center there. And she invited me to come and be one of the organizations there. And so because of that, I was able to flourish in Prince George's County. And we even partnered on a grant that I had been working for previous to meeting her for like 3 years. I had been submitting. And when she and I partnered, I was able to get that grant. It was like $40,000 to work in Prince George's County to provide my services. So Miss Sandy is the real deal, right? So I want y'all to know too that we're going to open it up. Like, this is a conversation. So if you have any questions, and as we're waiting for Miss Sandy to join us, let me know what questions. What did you come here to get? I know we got some folks that are on now, that are watching right now. What are you hoping to get from the session today. And you can put it in the comments, and I'll share the comments so everybody can see it, and let check in. Let's check in. Let's check in while we're waiting for Miss Sandy to come. Okay. And then I'll also tell you a little bit too about my experience trying to get a piece of land, or at least a building in Baltimore City. But let's check in. Where y'all at? What you doing? What you watching for? What information you hoping to get? Okay. So don't say Miss Washington. Okay. All right. So hold on there. She gonna come on through, and I want to make sure that she knows that you're on and that she can give you a shout out too. Okay, and we've got hello. So from Facebook, and I think it's weird with this particular platform that if you have to actually give your name, if you're joining via Facebook, you have to like do something so that we can see your name. So I can't really see what your name is as we're live, but it says Facebook user. But hey, oh, Tawanda, okay, you ready to get re-energized? Come on now. You've been on my mind. I'm like, what? Come on, where my boo at? What's going on? What is going on? Okay, the startup genie, Las Vegas. Hey, welcome. Deborah from Indiana. Welcome, Patricia. Good afternoon. How you doing? Thank y'all for popping on in here. Now, you know, typically I would do, I do my live videos, or before when I've done my live videos, it's just been me answering questions. But y'all know, I also want you to be able to hear from experts who have a lot more experience than I do in different areas that can come on. So you won't just say, well, Shalita's just saying that, or, oh, I don't know if that's true. No. I've learned from the best and I've applied this information as well. We got North Carolina in the house. Hey, representing. Okay. So, I want y'all to be able to have different perspectives. And so that's why we have I've started having special guests come on every week so that you can get that. But I know, okay, so we had, okay, so Yolanda, you said, how do you get people on your team? How do you get people on your team? Okay, so I have my thoughts around that. And I also want to make sure that when Miss Sandy comes on, she gives hers as well, and what has been like the secret sauce for her. But y'all know I always talk about your board members. And I know y'all get tired of hearing me say it, but it is so very true. It starts with your board, and it starts with them bringing their networks to the table as well, because you don't want to be doing everything by yourself, right? So you have a strong board, or at least an efficient board. Everybody's got board issues. I just want to let you know. From time to time. I mean, it doesn't matter how long you've been around. I don't care if you've been around for 15, 20 years, if you're just getting started, depending on the board cycle and the board members, you might have some boards that, that are not active, or you may be losing people off the board, or, so I don't want you to feel any kind of way. But when y'all know, I tell y'all, you have to put a vetting process in place, make sure that people know what they're getting into up front, right, with your organization. And then also make sure that you're ready when we talk about, having your marketing, or, what's your footprint? Like, that is your first impression to the world. And people go on your website and be able to see, what you're doing and how they can get involved. So with all that being said, you have let's say you have an effective board overall, right? You might have one or two that aren't active or whatever, that's fine. But overall, you have an active board. Well, make sure when it's time to start getting people, or building a team. I know a lot of, when I started building my staff, right, we got the funding in to be able to bring people on. It was from the different committees that I was a part of, or work groups or convenings in the community. So making sure that you are present and people see your face, right, and see your contribution. I was just talking to one of my clients before we jumped on here, is, making sure that a lot of times we come to the table asking for stuff. Like, oh, can I have some money? Or what grant? How much money can you give me? What grant we need to go after? And not to say that shouldn't be something that's on your mind at some point, but initially you want to see, what can you offer? What do you have of value? what resource can you give? When you come to a work group or a committee and you are, trying to figure out, well, who's who, and, who are the people in the room, and then where do you fit in? You don't come asking for stuff. You come with, like I said, a contribution, or come bringing your talents and your gifts to see how you can be of support. When you naturally do that, and then it's about building trust, and people are consistently seeing you at the table when the discussions are happening around your population and around the clients that you say you serve, then, it's like, oh, okay, when opportunities come up, people will automatically think of you. And not only that, but there will be people who you've built up trust with, who have seen you in the community. Let's say they're leaving one organization and they see your organization and you need team members or volunteers, and they're going to think of you. And they're going to reach out to you. Hey, you have any opportunity for me to get involved? So people will gravitate towards you once you start to build up that sort of trust with them. And that, like I said, to your question, Yolanda, that can lead to board members, that can lead to staff members that you hire, that can lead to volunteers. So it's really all about get immersed in the community and be seen and be of contribution. And then it's sort of like a beautiful, magical choreography that happens after that. Like, things start to happen, you start to meet people. So with that being said, we've got Miss Sandy. Look, I got her backstage. Okay, I'm going to bring her on on right now. Hold up.
Hey.
Sandy.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Don't you apologize for nothing. Look, it's all good. I know that you were coming right off of another, a more important meeting than this one.
Well, actually, I left them because they were taking too long. So I have my wonderful assistant, assistant director, is going to be my backup on that meeting. But that's the politics of it.
Well, I appreciate you. That means so much. Y'all listen. Look, so let me I wanted to, because you sent me your bio. I told everybody before you joined just how much you meant to me and how we came to be, and how you've put me underneath your wing and embraced me over the years. And I've been a better nonprofit professional because of it. And my organization has had more impact because of it. And so I'm just excited so that other people can hear from you, right? They can't have my Miss Sandy, like that's my Miss Sandy, but they can have you for about a half an hour or so to get some information from you. But I want to read pieces of your bio so folks can really know who they're talking to, or who hear just in a little bit of who you are. So Miss Sandy, and I call her Miss Sandy. That's Miss Sandy. Miss Sandy has over 35 years, of addressing the needs of people in the community. She started Lifestyles of Maryland Foundation in 1998, and she's going to tell us more about that organization and what she's doing, what she has done. But she's been recognized throughout the state of Maryland for her dedication to serving those who are homeless. All right, she is vice president of the Maples Foundation and Maples Limited Liability Corp., which provides affordable senior housing for over 93 senior citizens in Charles County. She is the vice chair of the Dorchester Community Center, serving a low-income community, and serves on the board of directors for End Hunger in Charles County, focusing on food insecure families. All right. She's also received several gubernatorial appointments that includes the Judicial Nominating Committee and Medical Cannabis Commission. She's received Woman of the Year, Charles County, Commission for Women Trailblazer Award, and congressional recognition as an exceptional business. She's also a Paul Harris Fellow and was inducted into the Community Foundation of Southern Maryland's Philanthropy Hall of Fame. Like, what? Okay. And has received numerous citations, awards, and recognition from law enforcement, Charles County State's Attorney, and a myriad of businesses, organizations, and agencies. I also want to go back to what Lifestyles was named the Nonprofit of the Year for Charles County Chamber of Commerce and the local newspaper Maryland Independent. From street outreach to more permanent housing initiatives, the organization serves over 14,000 1,000 people annually. In 2018, the organization developed the Market, a business focused on getting farm fresh food to food deserts in rural Southern Maryland. And in 2019, Southern Crossing LLC was formed. A 6-acre property, which was a vacant motel, is being transformed to 27 apartments that will house 77 low-income individuals. Whoo, Miss Sandy, you've been busy.
Nothing but God. Nothing but God.
Well, tell us more. Tell us more about what you're doing with Lifestyles. Tell us just more about what you're doing in the community.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Shalita. I say to you all the time, you're one of those people that when I see your face, it warms my heart, it really does, because you make me feel so good. And looking at what you've done and how much you've accomplished inside and out through the years, I just love your growth, and I can't wait to see where you're going from this point on, because I know higher heights. They say when the roots dig in deeper, the tree's going to be really tall. So I've seen you dig in real deep, and so I'm expecting great things. So thank you for allowing me to be here. Boy, hearing some of that and looking back from where Lifestyles has come from and where it's going. I am so blessed to be surrounded by good people, because none of us can do all of what we want to do. And I'm learning that more and more each day. I tell everybody I'm closer to 70 than I am to 60 anymore. And so because of that, I know while my mind wants to do things that my body just won't do. And so I'm so thankful to have people around me that can do street outreach, that can, work with some of the clients that we're working with, that have the talent to fit in and do the things that, I wish I knew how to do, but I've learned through the years it's better to go to people that know how to do it and be able to build those relationships and move forward. I've learned so much about construction in the last 3 years. I never knew that I could possibly want to know about or learn about, but that's happened. And my eyes have been opened more to the possibilities. When I started out, I didn't see all the possibilities. But the more you surround yourself around people that have accomplished more or have been exposed to more, then you see more, and you can kind of aspire to more. And I think that's what's happening with the organization, with Lifestyles, how it's morphed into looking at, real estate and assets that the organization needs to have to grow to where it needs to go. So while we still have to stay linked to the population we're serving and the reason we're doing that, we still have to reach for those other things to help us to do what we're trying to do. So a lot of what we're doing now is strengthening ourselves as an organization, as a corporation that's looking at a number of different kind of affiliates. As you said, we've got the Market, we've got Southern Crossing, we have Haven of Hope, which is another house, and learning from other folks that you need to develop these LLCs to diversify and limit the liabilities. And whoever thought I'd be looking at
you about that too. Because a lot of people have those type of questions. They're like, okay, well, I want to have a hybrid, or I want my nonprofit to own businesses, or, but don't know what that even looks like. But before we get to that, tell me more, because we had a question. One of our viewers, Yolanda, had a question about building a team, and you talked about being able to have people around you that can do different pieces of the work. How do you even get people like that around you?
Well, we all say, and if you don't say it, you'll start to say it, running a nonprofit is not for the faint of heart, because everybody can't stick in there. You don't start doing this or you don't stick with it because you're going to make a whole lot of money or you're going to do all of those things. So, people have come to you with different passions and different experience. And I think with us through the years, We've kind of weeded out some folks that came having one expectation, but realizing this stuff is work.
Mhm.
Um, and then also finding out in leadership how to tap into that person's dreams and what they're looking to do. So when you have somebody that has a heart for the people and that doesn't mind going into the woods and dealing with folks, and I want to tap into that person to be my street outreach person, and being able to do that. And then also recognizing that everybody's not going to agree with you. When you start nonprofits, everybody wants to have everybody that's you want board members that you figure aren't going to give you any trouble and aren't going to, they're going to agree with everything you say. But after you develop, you figure that's old. That gets old real quick.
Mhm.
You need people that are going to question and being able to keep you on task, and that have talents that you don't have. I needed an attorney that I could go to and be able to handle some of those things. And dealing with real estate and construction, I needed people that had that background and that was willing to do that. The other thing is, you're not going to find them in your office.
Ooh.
Okay. You got to get out. You've got to get out and meet with people and see people and go places where you believe those people may be, not intentionally just kind of hangers on. If I
Stalking.
think go, you may have to go to that chamber mixer, or you may have to go to that event, because there are people there that have some skills and some knowledge, and they may have the passion to serve in a capacity. They may not want to work with a homeless population or with youth or with foster kids, but they may like the idea of development. They may like the idea of structure, and that's the stuff that you need. They may like the idea of finances, and so they have some background as a CPA or know someone. The other piece is, I remember someone telling me, I'd gone to something, and people were talking about, being around and being a millionaire. And I remember the presenter said, "Do you hang around any millionaires?
Ooh.
Do you know any millionaires?" Because if everybody you hang around with is trying to duck the lunch bill at McDonald's, that's not your crew. That's not who you're aspiring to be around to build this. So you need to hang around with people that can actually sow into you and be able to do that. So I think finding those people are out there and knowing what you're looking for. You just can't cast a wide net and see what you get, but you got to really know what you're looking for. Who are you wanting to be around?
Mm-hmm. Love it. Love it. And also, people seem to, they see the glory. They see your glory. They don't know the story. Tell me more about, because when we had our conversation previous to this, tell me about the first year after Lifestyles. Where did you end on your first year of launching Lifestyles?
Well, I was so excited that we had served maybe 100 or so people, and we had $57 in the bank. I was like, we had a net $57, but I didn't know anybody. $57 in the bank, clean books, everything was good. And I look back now and I think, oh my goodness, I just, knowing how we got there a step at a time. And like you said, people see you at the end, but not at the end. I hope I'm not at the end.
Oh, no, you're not at the end.
People see you at one point, but they don't know the sleepless nights. They don't know the sacrifice, the tears shed, the prayers of saying, "God, if this is you, you're going to have to show me something." And arguing with God, saying, I told people you told me to do this. So if it's not right, I got to tell them that you failed. And I know you can't fail. So something's going to have to give here.
Yeah.
And then he'll send just the right person at just the right time to just encourage you enough to take another step. Yes. It has been a struggle. It's been a struggle. And I don't want to say that I am naive in many ways, but it wasn't until um, I guess about 10 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago, I remember someone saying to me, well, is it hard? Um, you're running a minority business. And I thought, I never thought about that
Mm.
because I had been so intent on service. I didn't concern myself with who was serving. I
Mm.
was just serving people.
Mm.
And so when they said that, I started realizing some of the challenges I've had. And if you can imagine challenges in Southern Maryland, um, being an African American female in Southern Maryland, trying to start a nonprofit organization. And I remember one group that was going to give us some funding for some women, for some help for women, and the group decided that they didn't want to give me the money. They wanted to go get what I needed.
Mm.
Um, and I, I've already told you a little bit about my age, so it kind of hit me, and I had to explain to them what that meant to me. It meant when I was coming up that we had Blacks that worked in retail and they worked in the shoe store and they could help you try on shoes all day long. But when you chose what you wanted to purchase, they had to go get someone white to go ring it up. And so what I said to them is, I understand what you're doing, but that's what you made me feel.
Yeah.
I could do all the work, but when it's time to come to the cash register, I needed someone else to do that.
Mm.
And I felt I needed to bring that to their attention because it really hit home with me. Because as long as nonprofits, and especially minority nonprofits, as long as you decide to do things for free
Mm.
out of the goodness of your heart, everybody accepts that.
Mm.
But when you ask to be paid for it, when you ask only what other people are getting for it, it becomes a little bit challenging then. They don't think you need to pay for the gas that goes in your vehicles to go provide transportation, or that the electric company doesn't charge me for the utilities that I'm using. All
Mhm.
of those things require money. And they feel the same way. Many people feel the same way about the churches. They feel that why should you pay the church to do certain things? But there are things that, the church still out of the realm of that church. So if they're doing community activities or they're doing activities of a nonprofit, if you're going to pay someone else, why wouldn't they get paid? And I found that in building a nonprofit is standing your ground for your value. Um,
Mm.
because you are valuable,
Yeah.
and to let people not value you is it's not right. It doesn't allow you to grow.
I am so glad that you brought that up because a lot of the work and the information I've been sharing with my, I guess, my viewers and my network, because the majority of my clients and the majority of the people who are watching are people of color trying to run organizations, and there are unwritten things. When you step into this sector and when you step into this playing field that has to do with race that we really have to be aware of.
Mhm.
And it shouldn't be something that just slaps you in your face and you feel like you're out there without any support, because you can't really go to anyone to talk to them about what's happening to you, because it is real. A lot of people will say, oh, it's not because of that, it's because of this. Like, no, it's because of race. And it's unfortunate. I've had funders who, I have for-profits as well as my nonprofit. In the past, I've had funders who have found, they know that I have a for-profit that had nothing to do with my nonprofit. And when I asked for funding around my nonprofit, they want to know how was my for-profit interacting with my nonprofit, almost inferring that there's some funneling, or there could be funneling going on, when they wouldn't say that to my white counterparts who had businesses or whose husbands had businesses. They didn't ask the same sort of questions. And like you said, and I want you to expound a bit on that too, because what you pushed back and you said, You could have very well been like, okay, well, thank you. I'll take what I can get, and they can go ahead and purchase the things for me. But you actually stood up and said, this is how you made me feel. Like you educated them in that moment. How did that work out?
It worked out well. The $1,000 they were going to give me, they ended up giving me 25,000 the next year.
Whoa!
It worked out well.
I love it because you had the courage to say something. And I think people ultimately do respect that. But then also they felt bad, you know. She called it for what it was.
Yeah. But you know what? Also, so it's I've learned more from my mistakes than I've ever done from my successes. I actually have. But I also think it's important that we have our ducks in a row, that we don't, we made a point of putting in place a system. We have a data system that we use called Charity Tracker, which tracks everything we do. Everybody we come in contact with. I can pull people from geographic areas, demographics, everything, because it wasn't just enough to have anecdotal information about helping people. I needed to have concrete information. Other people may not need it, but I needed concrete information. So aside from the feel good stuff, I had to show this is what the numbers show. This is it. And I think that's important too, because to be able to come back and say, this is what I did, this is what we're doing, this is what we need support for, makes a big difference too. So many times we make mistakes, and like I said, I've made a number of them, depending on positions that are critical to an organization. Their finances are so critical to nonprofits as you're growing. If we stayed at $57 at the end of the year, it probably wouldn't have been. But in growing, I needed people that knew things. And can I tell you, everything that's free is not free? Okay, so everything that's free is not. You get what you pay for many times over. So I had some free help in finance, and I've now paid that 5 times over. But I've learned that I have a wonderful accounting firm. I have a wonderful outside auditor. I have, they fight with me, but they fight with me in a good way to make sure things stay straight. And so, we have to invest in what we believe in and what we want to do. You've got to put that money out there. And as they say, you can pay me now or you can pay me later, but you're going to pay.
Right. Right.
I wish when we started, I would have had people, first of all, that were willing to share information, because I found, 25 years ago, going to folks and asking them, how do you get funded? How do you do this? People weren't open to sharing.
Yeah.
And we have to be open to sharing. And I believe that because we have so much and it needs to be fluid. If I hold it all in, then I'm not making room for what else God has for me. So I got to get rid of this stuff and give it to somebody else that they can use it so I can move forward.
Absolutely. The flow.
Yeah.
So tell us more about, because I tell my clients all the time too, you have to diversify your income. You cannot just have all of your money coming in from foundations, or all of your money coming from individuals or subcontracts or contracts. You have to really diversify. Can you tell us more about what does that look like? You have grown your organization from $57 to 15 million, like to millions, right?
Yeah, well, a lot in assets, couple of millions in cash flow, but in property and assets, we've moved it a little bit. We're small compared to, there are organizations out there with huge amounts of money and assets, and I recognize that. So we're still little, very little compared to them. But we found out, first of all, the first thing I always think is exciting is that I think our first grant was either $250 or $500 from the health department. I kind of mixed that up because I had back-to-back grants from them, and it was from the health department, a local health department. And what I learned from that grant, first of all, I was so excited to be able to get a grant from a government agency, you know. But what I learned from that grant was we were able to take that information and put it into other grant submissions to say that we were funded by the health department. And they didn't care how much we were funded, but I could say we actually we received and implemented a successful grant from the health department. And so that just kept growing and growing. We found that we were getting more government dollars, more grants coming from government agencies, and decided that we needed to look at what was happening with that, because most of those grants are reimbursable grants. And when you're dealing with reimbursable grants, that you're only going to get money quarterly or however they're doing that. So you're
for it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, right. And what we've learned in many cases, people, nothing against my government folks, but they still get paid whether they process your invoice or not. So when your invoices are sitting there, you operated 3 months, now you're turning it in. They have up to 30 days to pay you. You have 4 months of operation that you have to be able to continue to go before you get any of your money back. So we started looking at a plan of how we're going to do this. We need to look at how we're going to diversify, especially when you're serving a population that's not paying you. We don't have any fee for service, if you will, that. So we started looking at the people that served the people that we served. And so we found out that there are other organizations and government agencies and contracts that we could get that would pay either monthly or upon sending out an invoice that needed services. So we started contracting in addition to grants. So we started contracted services, providing some of our services through contract. And then we started looking at other avenues of getting funds in, increasing our individual and corporate donor base, and starting to look at that mixture coming together. And it's proven to be successful. So one thing helps the other. As government grants are reduced in some places, that's it. But we've been able to subsidize through other things.
And that's super important, because I know that's a lesson that I learned, a hard lesson that I learned when I had mostly foundation dollars. And there was one private foundation that was going to give us $50,000. And a month before I was supposed to get it, they backed out. And $50,000 is a penny when, my organization was small. I think we got up to like $400,000 a year in our, as far as our budget was concerned. And that I was employing 7 people. And so to be able to say, for $50,000, we're not going to have that. And I got to pay salaries and all that. Whew.
Yes.
And I also had some other, more money in the pot for different types of revenue streams. It wouldn't have hit me as hard.
Yes.
So, always have those different ones. So I want to know a little bit more about getting the properties. I know we talked about, people always talk about, I see this property for $1. I got this, I got it. I'm going to get that dollar property. But there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
At this, tell us what are some things that a newer organization, that's looking to venture out into real estate and things like that, what should they know?
Yeah. So, everybody, like you said, they look for the bricks and mortar. And it's fine if you're looking at it as an asset, and you have to determine why you're getting it. Are you looking for this to run programs out of? For example, we have domestic violence houses, we have shelters that we're operating, Southern Crossings apartments. So we're looking at that to house folks. If I were looking at it for investment wise, do I have the amount of money that it would take to turn something over or to do what needs to do that I need to do with that. But even if I'm running programs, what about the insurance that has to go with it? What about the maintaining the facility? It sounds good that you have it, but then you have all the other things that go with it. As far as I said, being able to take care of the facility, the insurance that goes with it, until you are the taxes on the property, until you are able to apply for an abatement of those taxes. You will have to pay the taxes at closing, and with all of that, nonprofits don't automatically get your taxes, property taxes, written off. You have to apply for that to have that done. So being able to look at all of those pieces, knowing what you're going to put in that property, and is it zoned properly for that? It sounds good, but then you start doing something and you find out the neighbors don't want it, or it's not zoned for that. So now you've got a property that you can't do anything with. And it's no longer something that's going to be an asset to you. You're going to have to do something with that. And then looking at the legal aspects of it. How do you want that property registered under your organization, or do you want to establish some other entity of the organization that all of your real estate will go under? Really looking at what this means to you and what it looks like to do that. So, yeah.
And how about the funding that goes into it? I know when I was looking at a property initially, I was told about bond bills, a strategy around, okay, you get this property and it needs renovation. How do you engage funders around it? And I was, even with the incubator space that you have, the CNN, right? That I was there, and you had pictures of what it would look like when it's completely finished.
Yeah.
So people could come and, you can have people from the community, you can have legislators, you can have funders to see what your vision looks like. There's a process, there's a strategy on how you engage people around the vision. How would people go about doing that?
Yeah. So it's really important to look at what's available in your community too, or in your county, to be able to see what resources are there. You spoke about in Prince George's County, we were able to tap into a resource that was a part of their their mission to do design and layout. And so we were able to have them do that design. In Charles County, where I am, as a part of Southern Maryland down here, I didn't have anybody that could do that, but I had some architects that in the circle that I had some builder friends that had some architects that donated their time to do some drawings and some things for me. Some I had to pay at a reduced rate. Reduced rate, though, still cost me close to $30,000 in architectural drawings. So that was for one project. But being able to have that, because what you have in your mind, everybody doesn't see. And so it's important for people to buy in, to be able to visually see what you're talking about. What is this, with the motel, all folks saw was this rundown, vacant property that had been empty for almost 10 years. And, what are you talking about doing? And so being able to have drawings of that property, and being able to see where it was then and where it is now, and then even taking it further to actually building out a model unit and fully furnishing it and having folks come in and take a look at it. I was excited when a young Vincent decided that she would come on board, and she came on board and brought her camera crew and came down and did the viewing of that particular unit, and it was exciting to be able to see it, for other people to see what you visualize. But having that, being able to do that and tap into people that could do that, and it doesn't hurt to ask, because if you ask people and they say no, move on to the next person, because somebody's out there that would be willing to use their talents, even if it's going through one of our colleges or universities, to get people to say, can you draw this up for us? Look like? Can you put this on paper so that you can share it with donors and other folks that may be interested? So that's something you're in need. And even with projects where you can buy the property for $1, or you can do some other things, you still want to look at what's the goal going to be? What's the end result of this? And how am I going to make this work? Because if you can't talk it out, you can't sell it to somebody else. You know?
Absolutely. And I'm going to, in a second, I'm going to go over to the comments. So those of you who are watching, if you haven't put a comment in and you have a question for Miss Sandy, please put it in the comments. I know I have a couple already that I'm going to share with you. But before we get over there, so we talked earlier about how the nonprofit has LLCs. And like you said, they're for determining, okay, well, there will be an entity that handles the real estate, or there'll be, when we're talking about longevity, building out, or like a lot of people don't understand what that even looks like. Or can you talk a little bit more about those who are like, well, I want to have that sort of setup. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah. And, I would love to say I know what the whole picture looks like. But I don't. I can tell you that it's nice to go to other people that have done this. And I have had the advantage of being able to talk with folks from Melwood and the ARC and HARC, and those folks have real estate and programs and all of those entities. And so I needed to look at what they were doing, what kind of models were put in place that would allow you to take your property under one thing and property management under one area, and then programs under the other. Being able to separate my programs from my real estate is really important, because I don't want to be going to someone for their rent when I'm trying to work with them on their life skills and getting through all of this. They're two separate things. So we needed to separate that. So programs being able to operate one way, and then our real estate and properties another, and really setting up those separate entities, those separate pieces with, I have board members that are on my lifestyles board, that a few of them also sit on the LLC corporation portion there, that board. And so we have that intermingling to that extent, but it is a separate entity that's operating and being able to do that. And then when you start looking at that, when you're talking about limiting the liabilities and assets, something happens to lifestyles, it doesn't take away all of my property and assets from something else. So that's when you need to bring in legal minds and financial minds, and I say people with all the talents that can set it up and structure it to keep you out of jail.
Like, do not go to jail. Do not pass go like we don't want that.
No. So being able to do that, but still keep your vision and what your passion in place. And that's the balance. I think for me. I have staff that they were telling me last week, because we were doing a meat distribution and had hundreds of people out here, and I was out slinging meat and milk, and they were like, why are you out here? But somehow staying connected to why you're doing what you do, because I can't get stuck in just doing the paperwork. I can't get stuck in just, the boardroom meetings. And so, and then, that I still need to know about that mom that doesn't feel like she has any hope, or the guy that's in the tent trying to figure out, how high he has to put his tent up in the tarp so that the waters, that all this rain is not leaking in, and how they're going to get there, get to the social services to recertify, and how are they going to get their meals. I've got to stay connected to that, because that is why I'm here. No, I'm not here to build a bank account and bring a lot of property up. I'm here for that person.
And look, you have Dante was like, hey, from your favorite client.
Hey, yes. So proud of you, Dante. So proud of you.
And then we got a couple of people that checked in. So we had the startup Jeannie from Las Vegas.
Hello, Jeannie.
One of my clients, Tawanda, who we need to check back in together. Let me see, from Deborah from Indiana.
Okay.
And Patricia Sykes says, good afternoon.
Aww.
And we've got someone from North Carolina that has joined us. and Keyshawn from Jacksonville, Florida. Okay. And we had someone who did ask about how do you recruit good board members, and I think you touched on it really about, going into the community and making sure that you're at the table. You're going, to that. But is there anything else that you wanted to put or that?
One of the things that I think it's important is that you have a good board packet. Because before you actually, I think you need to interview board members. You need to have a good board packet to let them know what your expectations are. And then you have to look at, be careful of those that are resume builders, folks that think that being on your board is good for their resume, or people that are trying to start their own business, but they want to be on your board to see how that works so that they can do their own thing. I mean, it happens, and we know it does, but I think you should you recruit board members just as you would in any other HR type position. What are your needs? You don't need somebody that's in charge of the building fund if the building is already built. You need people for what your needs are. What are you looking at? What's your mission of your organization? And so everybody's going to need good finance, good legal, and somebody that has some idea about human resources and being able to do that. But then the other components are, where are your weaknesses? Because that's where you want your strengths. Who can you pull in to be strong where you're not? Because the idea is to have a cohesive group of people that can move forward. When I say cohesive, I don't mean all agreeable. Right. I just mean that can work and move this boulder uphill, because it is an uphill climb. Yeah,
it is. And so we have Strawberry Fields Animal Rescue in Illinois. Hey, I follow you, and you've been great help to me trying to start my animal rescue. Oh, thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, animal. I love animals. Okay. My cat Cleo hasn't jumped up in here to try to debut. Okay, and we also have another viewer that says, I have a great team. But here it is. We are all new to the nonprofit world, so we are learning. But daily, we are becoming more effective every day. My question, how do you launch a great program?
So who has the expertise in the program, with the program? And I think you need to look at what is the intent of it. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? With this program, if it succeeds, what will it look like? Okay, because that I think starting from the end is the best beginning. Being able to look at what your outcome, what the desired outcome is, and then being able to work your way back to that, and then look at what's needed in between, all the pieces and the steps. Not that you're going to figure it all out, because I tell my folks, I'm like, my whole life has been like, in the nonprofit world, it's like an Indiana Jones movie. I'm just hoping there's some ground underneath.
Yeah, that's where faith comes in. Yeah. Absolutely. So then another question, how did you raise seed money for your organization before you became a 501c3? And how can you do this legally without having a license to solicit for funds? And what are the tax implications? So that's a pretty loaded question there. But, we all have to, before we get that 501c3, you got to pay for the paperwork. You got to pay, how did you get the funding you needed to launch everything?
Me. Honestly, it really came from my pocket and my husband's pocket. You're going to have to invest, even if it's just filing your papers, you're going to have to invest and find people that are willing to invest in you and what your vision is before they can take it as a tax write-off. Because that investment, you're going to have to file the papers, you're going to have to do all of those things. And I'm not a lawyer, I don't even play one on TV, but I would not be soliciting funds without having the legal documents to do so. So the thing is, but finding people that are willing to give you a few dollars, and it's not an awful lot of money. It's a matter of your filing fees, your 501c3, being able to do that first. I think when folks go into this thinking that I'm going to start a nonprofit and I'm going to be the executive director and I'm going to make $75,000 a year, you may have a little problem if that's it. But if you're looking at this in a way that you're really looking to serve a population or provide a service to a community, then you have to look at what that service is and making sure that what you're doing is going to be different from what somebody else is already out there doing. Even if it's the same type of service, what is your niche? What makes your service different? Because that's what you're going to be selling. That's what you're going to be providing to the community. Yeah, we may all do animal rescue, but let me tell you how I do my animal rescue. My compassion, what I do and how I serve the animals that I go out to rescue, how I look at what it does for our community it may be a little bit different from how someone else does it. And there's someone out there that's willing to give you $500 or $1,000 or 10 people that can give you $10 to come on and
bring it down. You got to bring it down. I know with my first organization, again, like you said, knowing who's in your network. And I met one woman who was overseeing a private foundation who was like, okay, I'll give you $5,000 to get started or to, get your computer you need or file your paperwork. And to some people, that is not a lot of money. But like you said, you have to be able to articulate what it is that you're doing and how is it different, and to inspire somebody else to be like, I want to help with that.
Yes. I'll share too. Excuse me. At one point, we had gotten a grant from the Able Foundation, but we had also gotten technical assistance from them. And one of the things the TA expressed to us is that a lot of it has to do with your relationship with money.
Oh, look, Miss Sandy, you don't know how many times I say that to people. Okay, but we got the guru saying it right now. I'll listen, okay?
Yeah, it's your relationship with money. And if you have if your relationship with money has not been good or is not good, you have a hard time with this and it becomes a challenge. The other thing is you have a difficult time asking for money. And one of the things that she shared with me is she said, when we will ask somebody to say, I need you to donate $100,000. And because the person is silent, we start saying, well, make it 50. Make it 25. Can you do 5? Instead of letting the silence just sink in, because we're already apprehensive that, I've asked for too much. But it's not that way. And just to share, someone else had told me, just poured into me and said, stop using your budget, use God's budget. Okay. He's not limited.
Okay.
Yes, he's not limited. You're limiting yourself, but he's not limited. Everything is open to him. So because of that, we need to stop closing our minds and thinking that we could never get that much, or no one could ever give me that much money or do that. No, it's there and all of it's yours. We just have to be prepared.
Access it and be prepared for it.
Yes.
I wanted to share this. It said, Rosemary says, Sandy, you are the most honest, classy lady, making a difference for so many. You are loved and respected.
Thank you, Rosemary.
That is the sweetest. And David says, thank you for giving to others and thanks for sharing with all of us.
Oh, thank you guys.
And let me see here. We've got, okay, and this is sort of getting back to the, so Chris, let me see. Oh, I think it jumped all the way down here. So Chris said, I truly appreciate this blessing of information you give weekly. I only missed a few lives. May God continue to bless you and your guests. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that.
That's nice.
And let's see. And Patricia asked, she's been giving back for the past 10 years and working with other organizations. How can I use that with getting grants and funding? And I think you touched on that a lot, Sandy, around relationships and tapping into those relationships that you've developed for the past 10 years, but having a clear message around what is it that you want. And like Miss Sandy was saying, the niche, like how are you going to do this thing differently than somebody else? Maybe.
Does Patricia have she has a nonprofit, I would imagine.
I believe so. Okay. Oh, she's waiting for approval.
Okay.
From the IRS for a transitional home for youth aging out of foster care.
Good.
Well, let me, because this is, for what are my next steps after receiving it? So after she receives her 501c3. So I think you also touched a lot on, okay, well, having your board members and having a plan, having, what do you want? You ultimately want to have this transitional home, but then, you also want to take some steps back and see what's needed. Like, what processes do you need to put in place? If you have the location for the housing. And this is something too that I hope y'all also know, that y'all can reach out to me directly. Y'all need a coach, nonprofit coach now.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm here for that. Okay. So
that's what I wanted to really interject, that is that what you bring to the table is something that people need to take advantage of. I started out by saying I wish I had that years ago, because then I wouldn't have had as many errors, or I had the trials, but not as many errors, maybe, because even as Patricia's talking about this, is this a place that has to be staffed? Is she ready for staffing? Are you ready to jump into that as far as staffing? Even people that do that, they think, well, I can be here and I can do that. But what happens if you get sick? What happened with all of that? And the whole pandemic has changed the whole way that we do any type of congregate living or any type of homes or anything like that. So being able to look at what the effect of this pandemic will have on any type of housing or congregate living or congregate settings. So sometimes thinking this, not sometimes, all the time, trying to think through this thing, walk it out. What will it mean? What will it look like day to day? What will it look like annually? Who will be there? Everybody pictures the really nice person that's aging out of foster care, one that's having all those, disease and going through a bunch of stuff, and how are you going to deal with that? Yeah. Have you written your policies and procedures for operation in that type of setting? Because that's the only thing you have to go back to when people agree to come into some type of home. What are the rules and the regulations? So while you're waiting for approval, you got a lot of work to do.
Yes. And with that, how do people get a hold of you? Or for those who want to reach out, I know that they can go to the website to learn more about Lifestyles of Maryland, but is there any way that folks can reach out to you if they want some additional, just want to bounce some things off of you? Or I know you're super busy. Do we need to have put Maryland's information on there? Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna send you to Marilyn Wilson, M. Wilson, at lifestylesofmd.org, or she can be reached. I'm gonna give you Marilyn's phone number, 301-609-9900, extension 206. And I don't want Marilyn quitting on me, so just be careful. You talk about surrounding yourselves with folks. All of our staff is great, but I can tell you that Correa Young is the assistant director. She has been with me 14 years and was just a babe when she came. So has grown through this system, and I depend on her wholeheartedly with my programs and operations, and together we do a lot of the grant writing and things like that. And then God sent me Marilyn Wilson. I needed an armor bearer, and she is it. She is it. I'm not a violent person, but anybody try to take her
You
from
gonna
me,
fight her. You
you
gonna
gonna
fight
fight.
her. Amazing. Well, Miss Sandy, I love you, and I thank
Oh,
you so much for spending time with us and telling us, mentoring us, because like you said, there's not even today. It can be difficult trying to get the support or getting information because people still hold things close to their chest.
right.
But I thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, because I feel ultimately the reason why I'm here doing this work is because I feel like we have everything that we need in our community. We just need to, have the information and the resources to sort of get around some of the disparities and the disproportionalities and how we get information. So, the more that I can do that, then and help our communities flourish, that's what I'm here for. That's my purpose.
Thank you so much, Lita. Thank you. I appreciate you. And can I just leave with one thing? With all the things that people have to go through, what the paperwork, all the foundational things, it's good to get through it. But as nonprofits, you have to remember what your passion is.
Yeah.
Your passion is going to be your lifesaver. It's going to be what keeps you afloat when nothing else seems to work. Depend on that passion.
Absolutely. Why? Remember your why.
Remember your why. Remember your why. Love you.
I love you too.
Okay.
And to close it out with everyone, we went over a few minutes, but this was just so much good information and look, everyone who joined was still with us, right? We still got people watching live, so we appreciate you for hanging in there with us. But I know that you picked up some gems and some gold that Miss Sandy dropped for us, and I just want to let y'all know that I am here, right? Let me put my little thing up on here, that I am here as your nonprofit coach. So if you're ready, like Ms. Sandy said, to invest in yourself and to take that step so that you don't have to know everything by all alone. You don't have to, have it all figured out. Bring me on, reach out to me. Let's see how I can help. Go to ShalitaO'Neal.com. We can book a one-on-one consultation just to see what your needs are. Also, becoming a hashtag nonprofit no filter member. Look, Miss Sandy can vouch for me. Okay. I have run transitional housing programs for youth and foster care. I have hired staff. I have applied for grants, federal, state, and local grants. I know this because I've done this. So if you need that type of support, make sure that you reach out to me. But I also have templates for every single thing. When we talked about those grant proposals, or talk about what are some of Miss Sandy said, do you have processes in place for this transitional housing program? Do you have intake forms? I have all those through my nonprofit template heaven, and I give those to my members. So make sure you just go on the website and take a look at all of what I have to offer. And so next week, which will be Tuesday, September 8th, our hashtag nonprofit no filter will be on establishing partnerships and contracts with state entities. So a lot of you have we talked about diversifying. So how exactly do you do that, and how do you develop that sort of partnership with a state agency? And we're going to have Ms. Brenda Donald, director of the DC Child and Family Services Agency. She was previously the deputy director for Health and Human Services in the District of Columbia, and most recently served as both the deputy mayor for Health and Human Services and interim director of CFSA under Mayor Bowser, before she actually came back as a director of Child and Family Services. So she gonna be the one to tell you about what does she look for in public-private partnerships. So until next time, y'all, we're gonna be real, we're gonna have fun, and we're gonna get results. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see y'all next week. Okay, here we go. Once I get the cursor over here.